here today, and most of it has to deal with safe and secure schools. Last week, after the horrific things in Florida, the sheriff gave me a call, and we had a chance to sit down along with the school superintendents, in this case from Randolph, and we came up with what we thought is a good plan to move forward to make sure our schools are safe and secure. Our discussions were wide-ranging, and they're still continuing. You will see in our press release some of the ideas we have regarding schools. We would be happy to answer any of those questions for you once the sheriff and the superintendent are done speaking. And now I'll give you Sheriff. Tim Whitcomb.
Thank you all for being here. I did reach out to the Assemblyman because I was using the police side of my brain as the sheriff of Cattaraugus County. But quite honestly, what also is driving this for me is I'm a parent of 4 children. And no parent should be dropping their kids off at school and be worried about their safety. As an administrator here at the Sheriff's Office, I'm aware of our successful contract with the Office of Court Administration. And they are responsible for the technology and the personnel that you see behind me, keeping personnel that work in our court systems safe. It is a successful model. In Cattaraugus County alone, in all of the buildings that house courtroom personnel, nearly $1 million was spent last year providing their security. That is because somewhere in history, our government here in New York State identified those occupations as occupations that were at risk because of the jobs that they do. Well, if that philosophy works for courts, it should work in our schools. In my opinion, our schools need to no longer be soft targets. There needs to be a single, fortified point of entry with armed people making sure one thing and one thing alone, keeping people out that have bad intent with weapons. School violence is not going to go away. Every time we have an incident, you hear one of 2 things being mentioned by politicians or people involved in making laws. You're going to hear debates on gun control, and you'll hear debates on mental health. And I don't care what side of the fence you're on either one of those. Those topics can be so polarizing that you can go to the next coffee shop and in 5 minutes enter some type of a debate. Those answers, if they come from one of those 2 topics, are decades away in my opinion. And between now and then, how many more children will we take out of schools in body bags? Armed security in every school is an overnight fix. And if we have the premonition to put this in place for our courtroom personnel, then how can we not do this for the over 3 million children that are in our schools? If we look backwards in time, by decade, it's evident to me that this is a trending issue that's not going to go away. From 1966 to 75, there were 3 school shootings in the United States. 1976 to 85, there were 8. 86 to 95, 14. 96 to 05, 18. 2006 to 2015, 19. They're not going away. No parent should drop their kid off at school and be concerned about their safety. Law enforcement wants to protect and serve. I'm excited to have our Assemblyman involved in this momentum to give law enforcement the opportunity to do just that, protect and serve. It's about prevention, it's about protection, it's overdue, and I'm excited about this momentum that we've generated. I'm going to introduce our superintendent from our Randolph school system, Kaine Kelly.
Thank you, Sheriff. As the Sheriff mentioned, he approached me about setting up a meeting with area superintendents so that he could engage us in a conversation about school safety and what our perceived needs are when it comes to school safety. We have set up a meeting between the Sheriff and the Chautauqua and Allegheny school superintendents that will take place on March 12th. For school districts, safety is always our #1 priority. We're continuously looking for ways to refine our safety procedures in order to reduce the risk for our students and to improve our response to a tragedy, should we be called upon to do so. Superintendents statewide have been advocating for additional resources that can help us improve students' mental health as well as make our schools safer. So we support any endeavor that will help us with that cause. There's no easy solution to the crisis, as the sheriff has mentioned, and their long-term solutions will take time. Those include mental health supports, community agency supports, parent trainings, professional development, in addition to these common sense security measures that are being mentioned today. But in the meantime, anything we can do to protect our schools now and to harden our target is welcome. A partnership between the Cattaraugus County Sheriff's Department, Assemblyman Giglio, and the Cattaraugus County School Districts can only serve to help our students and to make our schools safer, which is why we're standing behind this effort. I thank you for your time, and I'll turn things back over to the sheriff.
Well, as they said, you can see why we got together and where we're going. One of the proposals we're going to make today is a temporary commission on school safety and security. I will be bringing that to my conference into Albany with me. We believe we've identified funding sources for the full-time equivalents for law enforcement to get into the schools. We believe the capital money that's currently being bandied around in the budget, as you know, it's New York State budget time. We believe that fund should be increased to fortify the schools. We think that this temporary commission should be made up of educators, law enforcement, OCA, and anybody else deemed professional that would help us in our goal to make these schools safe and to prevent this from happening in any part of New York, and hopefully a model for the country. So with that, if you have any questions, the three of us would be happy to answer them. We have thought about this in depth. We will bring it forward, and we hope, as the sheriff said, to continue the momentum, to get these changes immediate. What we're talking about is now, not some theory in the future. We're talking faculty, staff, administrators. We want to make sure that they are, as the sheriff stated, no longer soft targets. That's all we're talking about today.
What safety measures are in place right now?
Well, simply talk about school resources.
Well, we certainly have security plans in schools. Schools that we do not have school resource officers in, we still have those security plans in place. We have a tactical team that trains regularly, and we train with our schools. And the schools that we do have school resource officers, they are embedded in safety plans in those districts. But we have some schools that do not have school resource officers in Cattaraugus County.